Hi everybody, so today I'm bringing you a tips and tricks video, hopefully in a series of videos. I'll be using Clip Studio Paint for this tutorial, but these can be applied to general art practice, and maybe if you want to use other programs that use 3D as well, you can definitely give it a try. So today we'll be looking at a few ways to make a character more interesting using their hands. So before we even get to talking about, or actually to me showing anything about the 3D models, I just wanted to highlight the importance of actually the hands, the expressions of the hands, because sometimes without them, a character doesn't seem as interesting. So it's not only about what a character is doing. It's also about how they feel. Sometimes the hands express their personality. So, for example, I mean, here we have just a panel of just a fist. I mean, what would that possibly mean? So we, according to visual language, we know that if it's just a fist, it's just there's some tension in there, someone's getting ready to fight or something similar. So hand expressions are actually very important. For example, when it comes to, I would say this would express emotion, like we starting to get serious, we're starting to state a point. And then expressions like these, I would say it's expressing a character's personality, because I mean, they're talking about something very serious. Scarlett is angry, and yet here he is with this sassy little hand gesture of, he's kind of very whatever. So sometimes that's why hand expressions are so important. It's not only about what the character is actually doing. It emphasizes a certain emotion or the action. In this panel, Scarlett is reading a little holographic message. Even here, still tension, and the one character still got that sassy, or General Eisen still got that sassy little thing going on, while Scarlett's is all fists. Okay. So it's very important that we actually establish what a character is supposed to be doing in order to get more expression with their hands. So in this particular illustration, it was she's kind of falling, floating at the same time. So the hands, in this sense, we see a bit of it would be a gesture that one would make if they're falling from somewhere and they're trying to reach out for someone. So in that instance, yeah, that's what this expression would emphasize. The hand action in this one, that's what that would emphasize. So yes, I also just wanted to highlight the importance of being able to do the basic anatomy. So it doesn't matter if it's actually hands or if it's a body. It's very important to be able to know the basic anatomy in order for us to manipulate it. So for me, this is a method that I usually use. For me though, what happens is usually, because I've been using this method for so long, I've actually skipped over, I skip over a few steps as well. So as you can see, this is some of the curve in the expression, because I want the pose to look very lively. Okay, so those basic curves actually, they can be applied to hand poses as well. In this instance, because this was a finished illustration, I just use this as an example. So as I said, for me, I skip over a few steps. You can see a bit of the curve that I had there before in her tummy, the back, because the expression, I want it to look very lively, right? So I skip over a few steps, as I've said before. Usually people would go in with and flesh that those little circles out with tubes, but like I've said, I've been using the method for quite a while, so it's much easier for me to actually flesh things out like this, because if my sketches get any messier than that, they actually confuse me. Okay, so you can see that there I've gone in with, I was planning the face there with the curve of the face. So I've gone in with the hair and the eyes and everything. And the expression of the hands, I already had that in mind. I kind of had that in the pencil sketch. Now, just going over to make a new file for our hand sketch, right? And just a random A4. Right, so I know we'll be using 3D models for this, but it's important that we actually get to know how we're going to break down the 3D models if you're going to be using them for reference with actually practicing hand sketches, because they're very useful in actually trying to, when you're trying to practice, right? So I usually go in, I don't sketch in anything but blue usually, and we're just going to go in with a random little block there. So it's a very curved, it's a very curved type block that's going to be for the palm. So this is not going to be very, it's not going to be 100%, but it's just for people to have an idea of actually breaking down. So some people use little circles for the joints, because I'm using the pen pressure, I can actually see where my little segments start and stop. So those little segments are for, they're obviously the finger segments, right? So another thing that we need to know is that with hands, obviously our fingers don't start at the same place. So as you can see, there's the little curve there, right? And then, okay, I'm just going to continue drawing on my little segments. So I'm just going to turn down the opacity on this one since I'm done with it. And then I'm going to just flesh it out. Like I said, it's not like 100%. So it's just like a quick sketch just to show how to use a breakdown in order to get that nice little hand expression there. And we're going to be doing this later on the 3D models that are going to help us actually with learning how to break down the anatomy as well. What we have right now is our blank canvas again. And we are going to load some reference. So it's super easy loading reference in Clip Studio. I just go over, if you don't have this here, you go over to Window and you look for Subview, right? So there's my little subview. I like to have it floating. I don't like to dock it anywhere because then it kind of limits my size. So I collect a lot of reference, guys. And that's like the main thing, is that as an artist, you need lots of reference. So there's some reference that I've already loaded, right? But I'm going to do a quick thing on how to load reference. So there's a little file icon there and you just click on it and you look for your folder with the reference, right? So I would click on that and then it would automatically show up here, right? So you can zoom in, out, and everything. So now I'm going to just minimize that so it doesn't distract me for now. And then we are going to load one of the models on here. So loading the models, that's also super easy. Here on the side under 3D, I'm just going to load one of these. So we just click and drag that onto the canvas. Just gonna wait for it to load, and I'm going to need to kind of zoom in on it, right? So that's our little icon there. It chooses, specifies camera angle from the presets, right? So just to zoom in there, and I'm going to just, can just click on that there. And this is basically how you move any of the body parts, right? Just by rotating and just moving them around. So the hand, because I want us to be able to see the hand position. So this is the default hand position that we have. And one of the things that I found the most useful is to load a base pose that's as close to the position that you want as possible. So say, for example, you already have a pencil sketch, you know what position you want your character to take. So I usually load the model, and then I try to find a base pose from, there's a whole lot of poses, not only for the hand, but for the body as well. So I try to find a base pose that's as close to what I need as possible. And then I modify that pose because it's much easier to try and actually do it that way. Okay, so for this one, let's see, what is that pose that we have on there? That's actually as close as possible to that one. Right, so for this one, the hands aren't as relaxed. So what's actually close is, yeah, this one is actually pretty close. I'd say between the OK sign and this one actually. Okay, let's just use the OK sign. So I'm just, right, gonna drag that onto there. Let me just move this model a bit to the side so you can see from every angle, right? We want, so that pose was a lot more relaxed, right? So I'm just gonna minimize that. We don't really need the face for this for anything. So that's why I'm actually just, it doesn't matter if we move it away or not. What we do when we're manipulating the hands, right? If you click on a part, it will show you where you can rotate it, where you can move it. So you can rotate the hand, right? So I would click on, so for the, let me switch on my reference. So I would, let's see, it looks very, I'm going to rotate that a bit more, and then I'll need to bring this part out. Okay, so the thumb is a bit more relaxed, so I need to actually straighten that a bit, and then still bring that. So this is basically how you go about positioning. So it's all about just rotating everything. So you can go over from whichever angle that you're comfortable with, you can rotate stuff. I hope you're getting the general idea of how to actually manipulate or move around the parts on the 3D model. Okay, so this applies not only to the fingers, but to the rest of the body as well. So we have different axes on which most of the joints can move. So for the most part, that's how you manipulate, just in general. For example, here with my arm, you can see I'm doing that, right? There we go. We now have our pose. This is the pose that we wanted. Right? Maybe we can rotate the hand a bit. We can stretch out the arm. So this is the pose that we wanted. Okay, so this is what I was saying before, that it's actually very helpful to have the 3D models there sometimes in order to understand the basic anatomy, because we can also use we can also use the models not only for establishing our characters or just tracing over them, we can also use them in order to try and understand certain breakdown of a body part, right? So where is my pen? Need my pen. All right, so in this case, I've made another vector layer. And we are just going to looks like a little spider, but we basically have just the basic anatomy of, we have your basic hand right here. So let's see if we do it without. But we kind of get the basic idea of what it's supposed to look like, right? It's very easy to try and put your character over the model. So the models aren't going to be 100%, but it's up to you to customize according to your character. Okay, so that's just with general tracing over the models. So earlier I spoke about manipulating, being able to manipulate the anatomy of the hands to be able to either fit in with our characters or fit in with what it is that they're doing. And in terms of manipulation of the hands, because I mean, we are trying to get expressions, it's okay to actually make a few unrealistic or something that would kind of seem unrealistic to just do in general, because we remember that we want to make either characters or whatever as dramatic as possible. I mean, really, would anyone in real life be doing this? But it just makes the character all the more interesting. It gives him personality. So it's okay to actually think of a few dramatic, or should I say, I shouldn't say realistic, I should actually say dramatic instead. So it's okay to make the expressions a bit more dramatic. And in order to do that, especially if we want to give the page a little more of a push, make it seem as if the illustration is like coming at you, so adding a bit more action to the figure. So in this case, what we can do is Clip Studio has this really great feature where you can actually switch up the perspective, right? So you can switch up the perspective, make the hand come out a little more, make the scene all the more dramatic. So in this case, I just used the perspective. And for this model, I used the manga perspective in order to make the hand seem as if it's actually coming out of the page. So you want to make the hand seem closer. And with this expression, with this hand gesture, the character is looking for something. But like I said, it's okay to make gestures a bit more dramatic than we normally would. So it's okay to dramatize a little bit and just play around with what you have. So with this one, I use the manga perspective, and you can see what a big difference it actually makes. So without the manga perspective, this is how it would look. And this is how it looks with, so this is how it looks with the manga perspective. I think I had it on 70 something. Having posed the hand, He's obviously looking for something to give context to what the model is actually doing. Let's turn all the prep stuff off, and we can turn on the ink and the color, and you can see what a big difference that would have made if we hadn't turned on the manga perspective, just to make that hand pop out a bit more. So in this case, we have another page. So I've just turned on the prep, all my sketches for this, and so this was the model, because it was a creature, a humanoid creature, sort of modified the parts that I need, made it huge up here. I made the fingers much longer, right? So I gave it a bit of a dramatic gesture like we had before. You can always just manipulate that, and made the fingers much longer in order to actually emphasize and try to get the proportions of the monster, right? So in order to do something like this, I would click on the model. There would be a separate tab there where I just adjust the body shape. And in this particular instance, I chose the hands. So this was as long as they could go. In the sketch, they're actually a bit longer. So I wanted to get them as long as possible, so as long as they could go. And you can change them, make them thicker, make them skinnier, make the fingers shorter, the whole hand shorter, right? So that's the little creature there. So you're trying to give it more of that monster-y type of pose. So this is all the ink parts of it. So this would be the finished product of it. Bit of a dramatic gesture. So that's what I mean by manipulating the models to make the hand gesture seem a bit more dramatic, because it's okay to give the characters more expression and to give the illustrations a bit more life. Whether you want to do this for different features as well, using the perspective tools and the manga perspective. This was a bit of reference that I loaded for the pose. And luckily the base pose was actually very close to this. And then what I just do is, let's turn on the perspective, right? So this is using the perspective tool, right? And this is kind of using the manga perspective. So the manga perspective focuses more on whatever part is coming forward, in this instance the hands. So a bit of foreshortening there, and everything just seems a lot more dramatic. So now, like we did before, you could use this as a type of practice, or you could trace over it. So there are there's so many good references on the internet right now. So it's not only anatomy books, there's just good references that people have provided. Actually, I use pictures of what I do a lot as reference. If I don't get anything specific, I always actually like do the action and then use that as reference. I mean, it's funny when you just busy doing really weird poses, but it actually really helps, because now it's the thing with looking at reference pictures is that you get only almost a 2D, a flat sense of whatever you're drawing. But with actually trying to do it yourself, you understand more. Not only with even trying to do it yourself, just looking at people. So it's actually nice to get people to pose for you sometimes, and that really helps. Besides this, I do a lot of pencil sketches and just a lot of digital practice as well. And that is it for how we would use our how we use 3D models to get some of those expressive hand gestures. So hopefully there will be I'll have another tutorial on another topic, and you can subscribe to my channel. I'll be putting up more time lapses of my artwork. I only have a couple up right now, so more time lapses and some of the animations that I do. Some I do in Clip Studio Paint and some I do in other programs. So yes, hopefully we'll have more videos going on.